They say good fences make good neighbors. But what about good walls? Walls that separate your living space from theirs. Walls that are supposed to keep you safe. Keep them out. What happens when those walls aren't as solid as you thought? I never wanted to move into the Pines apartment complex. The rent was suspiciously affordable for the area, and the online reviews were sparse and vague. But after my divorce cleared out my savings, and my ex got the house, I didn't have many options. It was either the Pines or my sister's couch, and at 34, I valued my independence too much to become someone's houseguest. Unit 17 was on the ground floor of the old converted Victorian house. The property had once been a grand single-family home, now chopped into 8 separate apartments. Mine had high ceilings, original hardwood floors, and the selling point for me, a private entrance at the back of the building. No sharing hallways with other tenants or awkward elevator small talk. Just a small concrete patio and a door that led directly into my kitchen. The landlord, Mr. Grayson, was a frail man in his 70s who seemed perpetually exhausted. As he handed me the keys, his rheumy eyes couldn't quite meet mine. "There's just one thing," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The basement door in your hall closet. It's locked, and it needs to stay that way." I frowned. "There's a door to the basement in my closet." He nodded. "It's an old service entrance. Doesn't get used anymore. Building code requires it to remain accessible, but we keep it locked from both sides. The main basement entrance is outside, around back." "So what's the problem?" "No problem," he said quickly. Too quickly. "Just don't unlock it. And if you hear anything from behind it, ignore it. The pipes in this old place, they make strange noises sometimes." Before I could ask any follow-up questions, he was already shuffling away, shoulders hunched as if carrying an invisible weight. Moving in was uneventful. I didn't own much after the divorce, just clothes, books, and a few pieces of furniture I'd hastily purchased online. The apartment felt hollow, my few possessions lost in its spaciousness, but it was mine, a fresh start. That first night, I slept soundly, exhausted from moving. I didn't even notice the silence that seemed to press against the windows, heavier than it should have been in an occupied building. It wasn't until my second day that I properly met my neighbor. I was unpacking books in the living room when I heard a gentle knock at my door. When I opened it, I found a woman about my age standing on my small patio. She was dressed simply in jeans and a gray sweater, her dark hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. "Hi," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Beth from 108, right next door. Just wanted to welcome you to the Pines." She held out a small houseplant in a ceramic pot, a peace lily I recognized from my ex's gardening phase. "I'm Alex," I said, accepting the plant. "Thanks for this. Would you like to come in for coffee? I just found my coffee maker in one of these boxes." Beth's smile faltered slightly. "Oh, I can't stay. Just wanted to say hello." Her eyes darted past me, scanning my apartment quickly. "How are you finding the place so far?" "It's fine, quiet." "Yes," she agreed. "Very quiet here. We all like to keep to ourselves." She hesitated, then added, "Have you explored the whole apartment yet?" The question struck me as odd, more or less. Still unpacking. "The closet in the hallway," she said, voice dropping slightly. "Have you opened it?" I remembered Mr. Grayson's strange warning. Not yet. The landlord mentioned something about a basement door. Beth's posture stiffened. Yes, keep it locked. Her previously warm demeanor had cooled considerably. Always keep it locked. Before I could respond, She was already backing away. "Nice to meet you, Alex. Remember what I said?" That evening, curiosity got the better of me. I stood before the hall closet, keyring in hand, wondering what could possibly warrant such warnings from both my landlord and my neighbor. The closet itself was unremarkable, just a narrow space with a rod for hanging coats and a shelf above. But at the back, partially hidden behind where winter coats would hang, was a door. Small, more like a hatch really, with a deadbolt lock that looked newer than the door itself. I ran my fingers along the frame. The wood was worn smooth, as if hands had touched it repeatedly over many years. There was no handle, just the keyhole of the deadbolt. I examined my keys. Among them was a small bronze key I hadn't identified yet. On a hunch, I slipped it into the lock. It fit perfectly. I hesitated. Both Mr. Grayson and Beth had been clear about keeping this door locked, but they hadn't explicitly told me not to open it, just to keep it locked. Surely a quick peek wouldn't hurt. I could lock it right after. The deadbolt slid back with a heavy clunk. The door remained shut, seemingly stuck in its frame. I pushed gently, then with more force. It gave suddenly, swinging inward with a low groan. Cold air rushed out, carrying with it the scent of damp stone and something else, something organic and unpleasant, like old food left too long in a refrigerator. Beyond the door was darkness and a narrow set of wooden stairs leading down. No light switch that I could see. I used my phone's flashlight to illuminate the stairwell. The steps were old and worn in the middle, a testament to countless feet traveling up and down over the years. At the bottom, I could make out a stone floor and what appeared to be a much larger space than I'd expected. "Hello," I called down, immediately feeling foolish. Who did I expect to answer from a locked basement? But there was an answer not in words, but in sound. A soft scraping, like furniture being moved, or like nails dragging slowly across concrete. I slammed the door shut and locked it, heart pounding. Probably just rats, I told myself. Old buildings had pests, nothing to worry about. That night I dreamed of the basement door. In my dream, it wasn't locked, not even closed. It stood open, a black mouth gaping in my closet, breathing cold air into my home. From within came whispers, too faint to understand, but growing louder as I approached. I woke abruptly at 3 a.m., drenched in sweat, despite the cool temperature of my bedroom. For a moment, I could still hear those whispers, as if they had followed me out of the dream. The next morning, I ran into Beth as I was leaving for a job interview. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes. "Did you sleep well?" she asked, though something in her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "Not really," I admitted. "Weird dreams." She nodded, as if this confirmed something. "It happens to everyone when they first move in. You'll get used to it." She paused, studying my face. "You didn't open the basement door, did you?" I felt my cheeks flush with guilt. I just took a quick look. Didn't go down or anything. Beth's expression hardened. "Lock it and forget about it, Alex, for your own good." "What's down there that's so terrible?" I asked, irritation creeping into my voice. "If it's dangerous, shouldn't the landlord do something about it?" "Mr. Grayson does what he can," she replied cryptically. "We all do. It's part of living here." "That's not an answer." Beth sighed, glancing around as if to ensure we were alone. "Look, every building has its quirks, right? The Pines just has more than most. Keep your basement door locked, don't go poking around, and you'll be fine." She forced a smile. We should have dinner sometime. I make a mean lasagna." The abrupt change of subject caught me off guard. Sure, that would be nice." The interview went well, and I returned home in high spirits. The bizarre basement door and Beth's cryptic warnings seemed less important in the light of day, with a potential job offer on the horizon. That changed at 2:13 a.m. when I woke to the sound of scratching. Not the random scurrying of rodents, but slow, deliberate scratches. 3 long drags, pause, repeat. It was coming from inside the wall that my apartment shared with Beth's. I pressed my ear against the wall. The scratching stopped immediately, replaced by silence so complete it seemed artificial, as if someone was holding their breath on the other side. Then, so faintly I almost missed it, a whisper. "Open the door." I jerked away from the wall, heart hammering. That voice, it didn't sound like Beth. It didn't sound like anyone. Sleep was impossible after that. I sat in my living room with all the lights on until dawn broke, trying to convince myself I had imagined it. Stress from the move, the job search, the divorce, it was all catching up to me. When morning came, I knocked on Beth's door to check on her, telling myself I was just being a concerned neighbor. No answer. I tried again in the afternoon. Still nothing. That evening, as I was making dinner, there was a knock at my door. It was Mr. Grayson, looking even more haggard than when I'd first met him. "Is everything all right with your apartment, Mr. Chen?" he asked, his voice frail. "Fine," I said cautiously. "Though I haven't seen Beth from next door today. Is she okay?" A shadow passed over his face. "Ms. Harrison is away for a few days. Family emergency." Something about his hesitation made me suspicious. That's odd. She didn't mention any family problems when we spoke yesterday. "These things come up suddenly," he said, not meeting my eyes. "By the way, how is your closet? Any issues with it?" The abrupt change of subject sent a chill down my spine. "No issues. Why would there be?" "No reason," he said quickly. "Just checking. These old houses, they settle. Doors sometimes don't close properly. If you notice anything at all, call me immediately." After he left, I stood in my hallway, staring at the closet door. Something wasn't right. Beth's sudden disappearance, Mr. Grayson's poorly disguised concern about the basement door. I opened the closet. The basement door remained locked, just as I had left it. But as I placed my hand on the wood, I felt it, a vibration. Subtle, like a purring cat, but there was nothing mechanical behind this door that should be causing such a sensation. I pressed my ear against the door. "Let me in," came the whisper, clearer now than through the wall. "So hungry?" I stumbled backward, slamming the closet door shut. This wasn't my imagination. There was something in the basement, something that wanted out. That night, I barricaded myself in my bedroom, pushing a dresser against the door. I left the lights on and played music to drown out any sounds that might come from within the walls. It worked, for a while. Until 3 a.m., when the power went out. In the sudden silence and darkness, I heard it immediately scratching, no longer just at the wall, but at my bedroom door. My barricade was moving, the heavy dresser sliding inch by inch across the floor, as if pushed by an impossible force. I fumbled for my phone, turning on the flashlight just as the dresser gave way completely. The bedroom door swung open. There was no one there. But the closet at the end of the hall, that was open too. And beyond it, the basement door stood ajar, a sliver of darkness, darker than the surrounding night. "Hello," I called out, my voice trembling. "Beth, Mr. Grayson." A figure emerged from my kitchen, tall, thin, with movements too fluid to be natural. In the beam of my flashlight, I caught glimpses: pale skin, dark hollows where eyes should be, fingers too long and jointed in too many places. Not Beth, not anyone I knew. "Hungry," it whispered, and its voice was the same one I'd heard through the walls. I ran, not toward the front door. The thing was between me and that exit, but toward my private entrance through the kitchen. I could loop around outside, get to my car. But as I reached the kitchen, a second figure stepped in from my patio. This one I recognized, despite the unnatural stillness of her posture, the vacant look in her usually expressive eyes. "Beth." "I told you to keep it locked," she said, but her voice was wrong, flat, devoid of any emotion. "Now, it's too late." Behind me, the first creature was approaching. I was trapped between them. "What do you want?" I asked, pressing myself against the counter. Beth's head tilted at an uncomfortable angle. "To share. That's what neighbors do." Her mouth stretched into a too wide smile. "They share walls. They share space. Sometimes, they share bodies." The realization hit me with nauseating clarity. This wasn't Beth, not anymore. Something was wearing her like a suit that didn't quite fit. "The basement," I whispered. "What's in the basement?" "A door," not Beth replied. "Like yours, but older, much older. It was here before the house, before the town. A door that should have stayed locked." Her head tilted further, neck bending at an impossible angle. "But now you've unlocked yours, and soon, you'll be like me, a good neighbor." I grabbed the nearest weapon, a heavy cast iron skillet, and swung it with all my strength at the creature that had once been Beth. It made contact with a sickening thud, and she crumpled to the floor. But even as she fell, her body began to twitch and contort, limbs bending in unnatural directions as she started to rise again. The other creature lunged at me. I dodged, racing toward my bedroom. Not to hide. I knew there was no hiding from these things, but because I'd left my car keys on the nightstand. I snatched the keys and turned to find both creatures blocking the doorway, moving in perfect, unsettling unison.
"No escape,"
they whispered together.
"Just acceptance."
In desperation, I smashed my bedroom window with the same skillet and climbed out, cutting my hands on broken glass, but too terrified to care. The night air hit me like a blessing as I tumbled onto the grass below. I ran to my car, the creature's whispers seemingly carried on the wind behind me. As I peeled out of the parking lot, I glanced in my rearview mirror. Standing on the lawn were not just the two I'd encountered, but at least 6 figures, all residents of the Pines, all standing perfectly still, watching me drive away. Mr. Grayson was among them. I drove straight to a motel 30 miles away and paid cash for a room. The next morning, I called in sick to my new job and spent the day researching the Pines online. What I found chilled me to the bone. Over the past 50 years, there had been multiple disappearances connected to the building. People who moved in and were never seen again. Police investigations that went nowhere because technically, no crime had been committed. People simply moved out without notice, according to the landlord at the time. And deeper in the archives, I found the building's original history. Before it was converted to apartments, it had been a single-family home owned by a cult leader in the 1920s. They practiced something they called door opening, ritual communion with entities they believed existed in spaces between walls, in the gaps between floorboards, in the darkness of sealed rooms. The cult leader and 12 followers had been found dead in the basement in 1928, arranged in a circle around what newspaper accounts described as a door set into the floor. Authorities had sealed the basement room, and the house had remained abandoned until the 1970s when it was renovated into apartments. I never returned to the Pines. I left everything behind, canceled the lease over the phone, and told Mr. Grayson he could keep my security deposit. He didn't argue, didn't even seem surprised. "It's not for everyone," was all he said before hanging up. I moved in with my sister after all, humbled by fear and grateful for family who wouldn't ask too many questions about my sudden change of plans. But sometimes, especially at night, I still hear it, the scratching at the walls. 3 long drags, pause, repeat, and whispers that seem to come from the spaces between spaces. "Neighbor, let me in." 2 months after I fled, I ran into Beth at a grocery store 40 miles from the Pines. I almost didn't recognize her. She'd lost weight, her hair was different, and she moved with a slight limp, but it was her. When our eyes met, hers widened with recognition and fear. Before I could say anything, she abandoned her shopping cart and hurried toward the exit. I chased after her, catching up in the parking lot. "Beth, wait." She turned, keeping several feet between us. "How did you find me?" "I didn't," I said. "I live nearby now, with my sister." Her posture relaxed slightly, but her eyes remained wary. "You got away. So did you, apparently." She nodded, unconsciously rubbing her neck where I had hit her with the skillet. "It doesn't always take. Sometimes the host is incompatible. They let me go." "Let you go," I repeated. "They're still there," she whispered, glancing around as if afraid of being overheard. "In the Pines, waiting for better neighbors." Her haunted eyes met mine. "They'll find more. They always do." "We should go to the police," I said. Beth laughed, a hollow sound without humor. "And tell them what? That there are interdimensional parasites living in the basement of an apartment building. That they're wearing people-like costumes." She shook her head. "We got away, Alex. Count yourself lucky and stay away from basement doors." She turned to leave, then paused. "And check your closets, always. Sometimes they follow." I've moved 3 times since then. I now live in a modern apartment building, concrete construction, no basements, no closets with strange doors. I tell myself I'm safe. But every now and then, I wake at 3 a.m. to the sound of scratching. 3 long drags, pause, repeat, and though I know it's impossible, I can't help but press my ear against the wall, holding my breath, listening for whispers from the other side. Because the thing about neighbors is you never really know who or what lives next door, and the spaces between our walls, between our lives. They might be thinner than we think,